Chronoshade. They named the planet Maria, for though it deserved something holier, or more damning. From orbit, it looked like a frozen pearl, its surface wrapped in swirling layers of vapor and iridescent clouds. But its size was nearly incomprehensible. 8 times the diameter of Earth, its gravity smoothed by internal wave shielding. What fascinated Command, though, wasn't its geology or atmosphere. It was time. Maria sat within a warped gravity well that bent temporal flow like a ribbon in solar wind. Early probes suggested a staggering phenomenon. For every hour spent on the surface, 6 months passed aboard any vessel in stable orbit. No one had seen anything like it. We were sent to study it. I was Lieutenant Kael Riven, Chief Comms Officer aboard the TSS Horizon, a mid-range exploration cruiser tasked with deep space anomaly research. We were a quiet ship. Low-ranking, low-budget, high-risk. The crew numbered 62, though you'd rarely see more than a dozen at once in the corridors. We were a skeleton team holding together under a tight chain of command. Our captain, Mara Lin, was ex-Navy, sharp, unflinching, married to the job. She rarely spoke unless absolutely necessary, and when she did, it was usually an order or a warning. 3 weeks after reaching Maria 4's orbit, Command gave clearance for surface deployment. A 6-person team was selected for the initial descent. I wasn't one of them. The away team launched at 0430 ship time. Commander Ezra Vaughn led the mission. He was everything Captain Lin wasn't: charming, reckless, magnetic. People followed him instinctively, even when they shouldn't. His second was Dr. Talia Shen, our resident quantum temporalist and, until recently, my partner. We'd been complicated, but when she volunteered for the surface mission, I didn't protest. I should have. Something in her eyes had shifted since we entered Maria's orbit, like she was already half gone. The rest of the team, Security Officer Rawls, Tech Ops Delan, Geologist Hanari, and Comms Junior Spence. They were scheduled for 16 hours on the surface. According to the math, that translated to 4 years ship time. We watched them descend into the clouds, their shuttle blinking into the planet's dense atmosphere. Then we waited. The first transmission came 6 hours later. Vaughn's voice crackled through. Base camp established. Air's breathable with filters. Gravity is dense but stable. Terrain's unlike anything we've seen, color bleeds differently here. Shen's report followed shortly after. Time lag confirmed. Our instruments are syncing. But there's a drift. A slippage. They sounded calm. Optimistic. 4 hours after that, silence. Over the next 96 hours, a full 2.5 decades ship time, we received only sporadic bursts of garbled data. Images fragmented. Logs corrupted. A few partial words. Shadows, loops, betrayal. Then nothing. Captain Lin made the decision. A second team would descend. I volunteered. She looked at me with something between pity and respect and said quietly, "If they're still alive, Kael, they're not the same people you knew." We launched with 8, me, Lin, Navigator Oswin, Field Medic Rallin, 2 Recon Marines, and twin android specialists. We packed for a 12-hour mission, which meant if things went wrong, decades would pass before we even knew it. The descent was jarring. Gravity flexed like a living thing. Time was thick. Every second stretched and snapped, like walking through syrup. We landed near the original camp. What we found wasn't a research outpost. It was a city. Stone and metal towers rose from the dust, crude, imposing, laced with strange circuitry. The symbols etched on their walls looked almost human, almost. It was as if someone had tried to remember our alphabet, but failed. We found a figure watching us from a distance. Clad in mismatched armor, a long cloak of scaled fabric trailing behind. She removed her mask slowly. It was Talia Shen. But she looked older. Mid-40s, maybe. Her hair was streaked with gray. Scars lined her cheek. Her eyes were harder. Sharper. "Kael," she said. "I hoped you wouldn't come." I stared at her, lost in the gap. "It's been days for me," I whispered. "For me," she said, "it's been 63 years." Behind her, the city stirred. Others emerged. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Some were human. Some weren't. And one of them, tall, scarred, wrapped in bone-plate armor, was Ezra Vaughn. He smiled like a king returned to his throne. "We built something better here," he said. "A future without time's leash. And we're not going back." Captain Lin raised her weapon. "We're retrieving our crew. All of them." Shin stepped forward. "Then you'd better be ready to shoot them." A sudden explosion rocked the ridge behind us. Dust filled the air. Figures emerged from the haze, armored, fast, silent. Not Qatari. Not alien. Us. But older. Different. One of the recon Marines screamed, That's me." A bullet tore through his throat. The last thing I heard was Shun's voice in my ear. "This planet doesn't bend time. It copies it." The firefight was chaos. Blaster rounds echoed across cracked stone. The air smelled of dust and static. The enemies that rushed us wore our armor, spoke in our voices. Some begged. Some screamed. Some laughed as they fired. I watched myself bleed out 5 meters away. Captain Lin took a round through the shoulder but didn't flinch. "Fall back. To the shuttle. Regroup now." But the shuttle was already gone, engulfed in creeping vines of tech-organic growth that hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. "We're trapped," said Rallin. "No," I muttered. "We're folded." Talia Shen pulled me behind cover, her movements precise, hardened by decades of survival. I saw the weight behind her eyes. The cost of time. "You weren't supposed to come," she whispered. "Every time someone descends, the timeline fractures. Copies. Forks. It multiplies. Then what the hell is all this?" I snapped. "That city. These echoes." Her voice trembled. "It started with us. Ezra found something in the northern crater. A relic. A machine, alive but not sentient. It mirrored intent. Identity. Memory. It saw us and made more." I stared at her. "It copied you. It copied everything," she whispered. Ezra Vaughn was no longer just a man. He had become a sovereign over a fractured loop of timelines, each iteration feeding into the next. Some copies of him had died. Others had ruled. Some had tried to return home. He killed those ones himself. "We were gods here," he told me, smiling as his army encircled us. "Every timeline a thread in my crown. You think I want to go back to Earth? To time?" Shin stepped between us. "You weren't a god. You were afraid. That relic didn't give you power. It gave you an illusion." Ezra raised his hand, and Shin shot him twice. He fell like a man, not a myth. But the sky screamed. The city reacted. Structures began to tremble, twisting upward like mechanical vines. The clouds pulsed. The atmosphere thickened as if the planet itself had awakened. Shin grabbed my arm, pulling me toward a stone tower. "The relic's inside. I've been mapping it for years. It's still absorbing, still learning." We reached its core. A crystalline engine suspended in a gravity well, pulsing with mirrored reflections of ourselves. I saw hundreds of me. Some broken. Some bleeding. One holding Shun's body, weeping. "Can we destroy it?" I asked. "No," she said. "But we can make it choose." She linked herself into the relic again. This time she didn't scream. She glowed, hair rising, eyes flickering with infinite reflection. The relic mirrored her, and her pain, her humanity, spread like virus through its latticework. The timeline collapsed inward. I felt it, time unraveling, choices converging. The battle outside froze. Soldiers turned to smoke. Towers crumbled. The planet folded into itself like a dying lung. And Shun disappeared. Just one last whisper in my ear. "Remember me in the real one." I woke up on the TSS horizon. Captain Lin sat across from me, alive. No wound on her shoulder. No signs of battle. Crew was intact. No city. No war. No trace of Maria, for on the radar. "Kael," she said slowly. "We've been in orbit for 4 hours. You've been unconscious since the briefing." I stared at her. "The away team? No deployment yet. You collapsed in the hangar." I didn't speak. Instead, I walked to the window. And I saw a single red star blinking just beneath the planet's cloud layer. A rhythm. A heartbeat. I reached into my coat and found her locket. Epilogue. They called off the mission. Too risky. Data inconclusive. Orders revoked. I never told them what happened, what will happen, what already did. But sometimes when I sleep, I see her eyes again. Aged. Sharp. Eternal. Talia Shen. The woman who broke the cycle. And somewhere in a future that no longer exists, I'm still holding her hand in a city that never was. But here, now, I remember her. Just like she asked. And that means, in at least one version of time, we won. The end.